Trapped in a small town during a snowstorm, two strangers can't deny their chemistry. I love winter. I love the cold air, the crisp cleanliness of freshly fallen snow, the holiday cheer, and the cozy feeling of being snug indoors while a storm rages outside. But this was insane. I squinted into the blowing wind, hoping that what I thought was an inn up ahead was actually the inn, because the weather was so bad I'd lost sight of the road behind me. The storm was a complete whiteout. I could barely see my feet as they shuffled through the snow, let alone the inn I was seeking. It was so bad, I couldn't even be certain I was still on the road, rather than stumbling around the side yard. I can't see a damn thing, I muttered, blinking away the ice crystals forming on my lashes. My scarf was wound around my face, covering my mouth and nose. Even with that, I could feel my lips and nose freezing. My fingers were numb, my toes tingled, and there was a growing fear in the back of my mind that maybe the inn was already full, and I was going to die out here, frozen to the ground like a human icicle. That wouldn't happen, of course. If I couldn't find the inn, I could go back to the car. I had a sleeping bag and an emergency blanket, not to mention a full tank of gas and a spare can of gasoline in the trunk. That would keep me warm until the storm ended, and then I could drive home and never come back to this stupid little town again. The inn looked like it had come right off the front of a box of chocolates. A two-story white building with green shutters and a matching front door, framed by a neat little porch. A rocking chair and a pair of benches, with flower pots flanking them, sat beneath a green awning, looking cheerful and welcoming, the very picture of an old-fashioned bed and breakfast. Except, of course, that the flowers were buried under a layer of snow, the benches were frosted over, and the awning was sagging under the weight of the snow piling up on it. There was no car parked out front, but there were tire tracks leading off to the side. So someone had been here, at least. I just hoped they had rooms available. A gust of wind slammed into me, nearly knocking me off my feet, and I stumbled sideways, my foot slipping on an icy patch. Fuck, I swore as I struggled to regain my balance. This wasn't working. I couldn't see, and I was about to fall on my ass. I'd either have to keep moving and hope for the best, or else get down on my hands and knees and crawl. Before I could decide which would be more humiliating, I heard the creak of hinges, and the green front door opened a crack. Hello. A voice called out. A man's voice, deep and rich, with a soft southern accent. Here. I shouted. I'm here. The door opened a bit wider, revealing a tall figure swathed in a thick gray coat and a black and white scarf, the lower half of his face covered. A knit hat pulled down low left only a narrow strip of his forehead exposed. All I could see of his face were his eyes, a clear bright blue that seemed to glow in contrast to his dark skin. What are you doing out in the snow? He asked, his tone incredulous. Trying to get out of it, I snapped, stomping up the snow-covered steps to the porch. Right. Well, come in. He held the door open for me, and I all but dove inside. He had a pair of gloves, but he wasn't wearing any other winter gear. He closed the door and unwound the scarf, and I couldn't help but stare. He was gorgeous. Dark skin, broad cheekbones, full lips, a strong, square jaw. His eyebrows were slightly raised, giving him a perpetual look of amusement. And I was gawking like an idiot. I shook my head and unwound my scarf from around my face. So, he said, what are you doing out on a night like this? Don't you know there's a storm going on? Very funny. I unzipped my coat and shrugged it off. Underneath, I was wearing a thick, long-sleeved Henley and a pair of heavy cargo pants. I wasn't dressed for the weather, but I'd expected to be driving, not walking in a blizzard. I was hoping to stay here for the night. He laughed, a rich, warm sound. I don't think you're going anywhere tomorrow, either. This storm isn't letting up anytime soon. Come on. He turned and headed for the door behind the desk, and I followed him. The place looked a lot like it had in the photos online. Small, cozy, and warm. It had an old-fashioned charm, like something from the early 20th century, all hardwood and brass. Are you the only one here? I asked, as he led me through the door and into a short hallway. Yep, I live here. Well, sort of. My apartment is above the lobby, but the stairs are through here. Your whole family doesn't live here with you. My parents died a few years ago, he said. Cancer. Oh. I'm sorry. It's fine. He led me up a narrow flight of stairs, and unlocked the door at the top. I had a little sister, but well, she's gone, too. I'm so sorry, I said again, feeling like an idiot. I hadn't meant to open such a painful subject. He shrugged and opened the door. Like I said, it's fine. It happened a while ago. What about you? No one waiting for you at home. Not really. I stepped inside the room, and immediately started taking off my clothes. Whoa. He held up his hands, laughing. At least let me buy you dinner first. I need a shower, I explained. Oh. Of course. I'll get you a towel. Thanks. I appreciate it. He brought me a towel, and after giving me directions to the bathroom, disappeared back downstairs. I hurried through my shower, trying not to think about the gorgeous man who'd invited me into his inn, or about the fact that I was standing naked in his bathroom. The water was hot, the towels were soft, and the soap was scented like lavender. It was almost enough to make me forget the cold. I dried myself, then got dressed, and went back downstairs to find my host. He was in the front room, sitting in an armchair next to a fire. He was no longer bundled up in a scarf and hat. Instead, he was wearing a button-up shirt, the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, the collar open just enough that I could see a hint of his chest. He stood when I walked in, and smiled. Feeling better? Much. Thank you. Good. Are you hungry? I haven't had dinner yet. Starving. Let me help you. You don't have to. It's the least I can do. You've saved me from a night spent in my car. Well, in that case, I won't turn down your help. Come on, the kitchen is through here. The kitchen was surprisingly modern, with stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, and polished hardwood floors. Wow, I said. This is impressive. Yeah, well, this part of the inn is new. We renovated a few years back. This room in the front lobby used to be a living room, but we decided it made more sense to turn it into a kitchen. Oh. So, there's another person involved in the business. Yes, my uncle, but he's not available. I see. So, he said, rubbing his hands together, what do you want to make? I was thinking of helping you cook. He gave me a surprised look. Really? You want to cook with me? Sure. Why not? Unless you don't trust me. No, I do. He smiled, a little hesitantly. It's just, no one's ever wanted to cook with me before. Then they've been missing out, I said. He laughed. If you say so. Come on, I'll show you the pantry. He pulled a couple of aprons from a drawer, handed me one, and wrapped the other around himself. His fingers deftly tied the strings behind his back. Can I ask you a question? I said. Sure. What do you want to know? What's your name? He stopped in the act of opening the fridge, and slowly turned to face me, his expression unreadable. You don't know. Know what? My name. Should I? Do we know each other? He hesitated, then said, Elijah. My name is Elijah. And yours is? Liam. It's nice to meet you, Elijah. So what are we cooking? I was thinking chicken Alfredo. Sound good. Sounds great. We made dinner, chatting as we worked, and the conversation flowed smoothly. Elijah was easy to talk to. Afterward, we sat in the front room, and talked some more. I told him about my life, about my work. He listened attentively, nodding, smiling, occasionally asking questions. When I'd finished, he told me about his own life. His parents, his sister, his childhood. I hadn't noticed how close we'd gotten until our knees were touching. Elijah looked at me, his gaze dropping to my lips, and he licked his own. Then he leaned in and pressed his mouth against mine. It was a chaste kiss, gentle and warm, and it sent shivers down my spine. Elijah pulled away, his eyes wide, and he touched his fingers to his lips. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not. Oh. He cocked an eyebrow, a hint of amusement on his face. Did you like it? I did. I kissed him again, harder, deeper. His tongue flicked out, tasting my lips. He was trembling, and when we broke apart, His breath was coming fast and shallow. That was amazing, he murmured. Yes, it was. I ran my fingers through his hair, enjoying the softness. He closed his eyes and sighed happily. I can't believe this is happening. You're so hot. You're pretty sexy yourself. Do you want to go upstairs? He asked, a hopeful note in his voice. Absolutely. Elijah took my hand and led me to the stairs. Wait here, he whispered. I need to turn off the lights and lock the doors. I watched him disappear into the kitchen, and tried not to think about the implications of those words. Okay, he said, reappearing. All locked up. Let's go. The stairs creaked beneath our feet as we climbed to the second floor. It was darker here, the only light coming from the moon outside, which was barely visible through the swirling snow. Elijah's hand was warm in mine, and he was smiling. When we reached the top, he opened a door and ushered me inside. After you, he said. The room was small and simple, but comfortable. There was a bed, a dresser, a nightstand, and a bookshelf. Everything was neat and clean, and smelled faintly of lavender. Elijah closed the door and leaned against it, watching me. Come here, I said. Okay. He came closer, still smiling. I put my arms around him and pulled him in for another kiss. He pressed his body against mine, his hands moving restlessly over my back. What do you want to do? He whispered. Anything you want. Really? Anything, I repeated. I've never done this before, he said. It's okay. I'll show you. I pushed him down onto the bed and climbed on top of him, straddling his hips. I took off his shirt, and then mine. He moaned as I kissed my way down his chest. His skin was warm and smooth, and he smelled like fresh baked cookies. Tell me what you like, I said. I don't know, he replied. Just do whatever feels right. Okay. I tugged his pants down, and took his cock in my mouth. He gasped, his hands clutching at my hair. Oh God, yes, he moaned. Keep doing that. I did. I kept sucking his cock, licking and stroking him, until he was writhing on the bed, whimpering and begging me to stop. Why? I asked. Because. I'm gonna come. Good. He groaned as his body tensed, and he spilled his seed into my mouth. I swallowed, savoring the taste. Fuck, he panted. That was amazing. I'm glad you liked it. Now what? Now you return the favor. He grinned. I can do that. I lay back, and he moved between my legs. His lips brushed against the tip of my cock, and he kissed it, before taking it into his mouth. He sucked on it, slowly at first, but soon his tongue was swirling around the head, teasing me. I grabbed a handful of his hair and pulled him off. Not so fast, I growled. Sorry. Don't be. Just take it easy. There's no rush. Okay. He lowered his head again, and began licking my cock. He ran his tongue along the length of it, pausing occasionally to suck on the tip. I groaned and let my head fall back onto the pillow. This was perfect. Elijah continued sucking my cock, while I played with his hair. The feel of his mouth on me was incredible. He was so good at it, and he seemed to know exactly how to drive me crazy. Oh, fuck, I moaned. That feels so fucking good. You taste so good, he said. I love it. He was driving me wild. His tongue flicked across the head of my cock, making me gasp. Then he took it into his mouth, swallowing as much of it as he could. Oh God, that's so good, I groaned. His mouth moved faster, and I could feel my climax approaching. I knew I wouldn't last long. Oh fuck, I'm gonna come, I warned. Do it, he said, his voice muffled by my cock. I cried out as I came, shooting my load into his mouth. He drank it all down, swallowing every drop. That was amazing, he said, smiling up at me. Yes, it was. He lay down next to me, and we cuddled together. So, he said, now what? I guess we should get some sleep, I said. Yeah, probably. He yawned and snuggled closer to me. I had a lot of fun tonight. Me, too, I replied. He fell asleep almost immediately. I lay awake, staring up at the ceiling. This was all wrong. It should have been a normal night. Just a quick pit stop at a hotel, a nice dinner, a pleasant conversation. Not a storm, not a blizzard, and definitely not a gorgeous guy in bed with me. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. But what? And why couldn't I shake the feeling that it had something to do with the man I was holding in my arms? Elijah, I whispered. Wake up. What is it? He mumbled, still half asleep. There's something I need to tell you. Yeah, I don't think we're who we say we are. What? Just listen. I'm not an ordinary guy. I'm not a human. I'm a demon. He sat up and stared at me, his eyes wide. A what? A demon. You're a demon, too. We're both demons. And I think we're here for a reason. You're serious. Completely. Something is going on, and we need to find out what it is. He looked confused. How do you know all this? I'm not sure. I just know. Can't you feel it? He thought for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, actually, I can. Good. Then we're on the same page. Let's get started. On what? Finding out what the hell is going on. We spent the next few hours talking, trying to piece together the memories we had of our lives before waking up in the snowstorm. So, what's the last thing you remember? I asked. Being trapped, he said. Trapped in a cold, dark place. Like a cave, maybe. He shook his head. I'm not sure. What else? There was someone else there. Someone who was hurting me. Who? I don't know. It's hard to remember. But I think it was a woman. A woman. Yes. And she had a name. I can't remember what it was, though. That's okay. You don't have to. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. She was trying to hurt me. She was trying to destroy me. Why? I don't know. Maybe she's the reason we're here. Maybe. But why? What does she want with us? He shook his head. I can't remember. But I think she's responsible for the storm. She's a weather demon. Maybe. Or maybe she's just manipulating the weather to her own ends. Well, if that's the case, we need to find out what she's up to. And fast. He opened his eyes and looked at me. How do we do that? We go looking for her. Where? Wherever the trail leads us. But first, we need to get out of this storm. How? Magic. It's how I got us out of the cave. I can do it again. You can. You're sure? Pretty sure. It might take a while, but I think I can do it. Then let's do it. We sat facing each other, and I reached out, taking his hands in mine. Okay, I said. Concentrate. Focus on the spell. Picture it in your mind. He nodded. I am. Good. Now repeat after me. By the power of 3 times 3, as I will, so mote it be. He repeated the words, his voice low and steady. Again, I said. He repeated the spell, and I could feel the power building between us. Again, I commanded. He spoke the words, his voice growing stronger with each repetition. Again, he repeated the spell once more, and this time, the air around us began to shimmer. The snow outside the window stopped falling, and the wind ceased blowing. We did it, he said, grinning. Yes, we did. Come on, let's get moving. I stood, and he followed suit. We walked to the door, and I placed my hand on the knob. Are you ready? Ready. I turned the knob and opened the door. Outside, the sky was clear, and the snow was gone. The world was bright and beautiful. Wow, Elijah said, his voice filled with wonder. Yeah, I agreed. Wow. We stepped outside, and I closed the door behind us. So, I said, where to? North, he replied. North it is. We set off, walking through the freshly fallen snow. It was crisp and cold, and the air was fresh and clean. How do you know which way is north? I asked. I'm not sure, he said. I just know. You're a demon, I said. You have demon senses. They're probably telling you which way to go. Demon senses. That's a thing. It's a thing, I confirmed. I see. We continued walking, our boots crunching on the snow. We'd been walking for an hour when Elijah suddenly stopped. What is it? I asked. We're being watched, he said. Where? Over there. He pointed to a nearby tree. I squinted, but couldn't see anything. I don't see anything. Look closer, he said. I did, and this time, I saw a pair of glowing yellow eyes staring at us from the shadows. It's her, Elijah whispered. The woman. How do you know? I just do. The creature emerged from the shadows, revealing itself to be a massive wolf. Its fur was black as night, and its eyes were red as blood. Holy shit, I muttered. That's not a normal wolf, Elijah said. No shit. The wolf growled, baring its fangs. What do we do? Elijah asked. We fight, I replied. Fight. Yep. This is why we're here. We're supposed to fight. We're supposed to win. You sure about that? Yes. Well, okay then. Let's fight. I smiled, and felt my own fangs grow. My claws extended, and my wings unfurled. Let's do it. What's your plan? Elijah asked. To rip the bitch apart. Sounds good to me. The wolf snarled and charged at us. We met it head on, clawing and biting. It was a fierce fight, and the forest was soon filled with the sounds of howling and snarling. But in the end, we emerged victorious. That was awesome, Elijah said, grinning. It sure was, I agreed. Now what? Now, I said, we keep going. We have a mission to complete. We set off again, heading north. We didn't know where we were going, or what we were looking for, but we knew we had to keep moving. So, Elijah said, as we trudged through the snow. This is kind of a weird question, but, like, are we dating? Or something? If you want, I said. Why? Do you want to date me? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're hot. And smart. And funny. And you're not a serial killer, which is a plus. So yeah, I'd like to date you. I'd like to date you, too, I said. We'll figure it out as we go. He grinned. Cool. We walked on, deeper into the forest. We didn't know where we were going, or what was waiting for us, but we were determined to find out. Together.